So talking about resumes, how many have your resume? Great. How many love your resume? Okay. Okay. Well, maybe through this, these suggestions I will make, maybe you'll end up loving your resume when we're done. So I'm going to cover a few things. What's the purpose of a resume? Why are they important? Some interesting statistics about resumes, and then we'll go sort of nitty-gritty with what are the components, how to format your resume, and those kinds of things. Okay, so let's start first with the introduction. So why do you write a resume besides you have to do it for your class? Why else do you write a resume? Anybody? It's not that early. Why are you writing a resume? Yes?
To show your experiences, your education to employers.
Okay, great. You want to show your experience, your education for an employer. It really is, you can use it for that, for a job search maybe. How many of you are thinking about going to grad school? In the grad school application, they're also going to want a resume, so you're going to need it for that kind of thing. The purpose of the resume, what would you say is the purpose of it? What is yeah?
I guess you could say it's an abridged introduction of sorts.
Okay, it's an introduction. It is also what gets you the interview, okay? The resume doesn't get you the job, but it does get you an interview by sharing your information and your experiences with it. Okay, any questions about that? So it is important. So stats, I have some just interesting things to share with you. For resumes, how many resumes do you think an employer gets for one position? Give me a ballpark number. Hundreds? Sometimes it's thousands. It depends on the company. So, an HR person can have a pile of resumes like this, okay? So you have to keep that in mind when you're writing the resume because you want to highlight those skills and achievements that you have that they're looking for. How often should you update your resume? You're going to...
That would depend on the experience. I mean, if you feel it, also the job you're applying for, depending on those skills translate, if that experience relates to what you're looking for.
Yeah. So it would depend on, what you're applying for and how you would tailor your resume to that position. Really, anytime besides that, the other thing you can do whenever you have a new job, a new experience, a volunteer opportunity, some sort of certification, anything that changes sort of in your life, your professional life, you would want to update your resume. And sometimes you just want to go in and update it to just freshen it up to make sure it's, the best it can be. Also, another thing to think about as far as updating, I like to have multiple resumes. You shouldn't just have one. You can have one that might have everything that you've ever done. And then you have another one, maybe you want to go into sales and marketing. So you would have one that was tailored to a sales and marketing position. If you want to coach, you would have another one tailored for that coaching. So you can have multiple resumes, and that way you're either ready to go, or you can go back to your original one that has everything and pick and choose what's on that resume to make a new one, because you always want to tailor your resume to the job that you're interested in applying for. Okay? And then the last one, how long do you think it takes an employer to look at your resume? you're my go-to guy, but let's see if someone else. Anyways, yes.
I was told they look at it for like 2 minutes.
2 minutes. Anybody else? Yes.
5 seconds.
5 seconds. Anybody else?
I was gonna say like 30 seconds.
30 seconds. Actually, it's around 5 seconds. That initial look, when they're scanning it, it's 5 seconds. If there's nothing there that catches their eye, they move on to the next resume. However, if they see something in that 5 seconds, maybe you'll get another, 5-10 seconds. And if they see something more that makes them want to read more, maybe you're up to 30 seconds at that time. And you want them to look at your resume as long as possible, because the longer they look at you, the more interested they are, and the more you have the opportunity to get that interview. So you have to put things on your resume that will stand out, make it easy to read. The other thing, some key things, and I'll talk about these a little bit later, but when you're writing your resume so that things stand out, is look at their job description, look at their website, look at the qualifications, look at those keywords that they're using, and put those in your resume to describe what you've done in the past, because they're searching for those keywords. Okay? All right. Any questions about that as we go into the format? Okay, here are just some basic helpful hints on what your resume should look like. But I'm going to preface it by saying you could show your resume to 100 different people and everyone would tell you something different. So you have to be confident in what you put in your resume in the format that you think best sells your skills and experiences. However, here's sort of the general guidelines. It needs to be one page, okay? The font size should be between 10 and 12, and it should be a more traditional font. Again, makes it easy to read. No graphics, no colors, no pictures, no personal information. Most businesses are pretty conservative, so you're not going to want highlighter yellow resume paper. Okay? No graphics, you're not in graphic design, so you don't really need that. The no pictures and no personal information, I always throw this in because I've been looking at resumes for a very long time and I've seen all kinds of things. And you don't need to put a picture of yourself in the corner. I don't need any personal information. I've seen resumes with social security numbers. I've seen 6'2", 180, single. Like I don't need that information, okay? This is business, okay? So no graphics, no pictures, no color, no personal information. Probably the most important thing I can tell you is please proofread your resumes. Make sure that everything is spelled correctly, correct grammar, because if an employer sees anything, any mistakes, that says to them, you didn't care enough to turn in a good resume to me. So if you don't care about this job, then I'm not going to interview you. So it's really important to make sure that you've proofread it. And that can be, have your parents look at it, have your roommate, come to career services, have a professor look at it. But make sure that everything is correct on your resume. Also, the information on your resume needs to be relevant to the position that you're applying for. So you don't need, some jobs you don't have to put on there if they're not current, and if they put you over a second page, you probably should not put any high school information on your resume unless it's relevant to that position that you're looking for, and even then I would sort of question it. The employers are looking at more, what have you done lately? What did you do when you were at OSU? Okay. And then of course the other thing is be consistent with the headings, the fonts, the spacing, the verb phrases. Again, it's just makes it easier to read. So all the headings should be in the same place on your resume. You know, the spacing should be similar. The verb phrases should all be in the same tense. It just makes it easier for employers to find things and makes it easier for them to read. Okay. Any questions about formatting? Awesome. Okay. I'm sure you already know this. Here are the components of the resume. The heading would be your name and address and contact information. You can have an objective or summary. You can don't have both, have one or the other. You don't always need an objective or a summary. For example, if you're going to a career fair, you do not need an objective because you might want to talk to some employers that may not be the position that you were initially looking for, but you see this other employer that you've always been interested in. So it's always best to not have an objective on there. Education, of course, OSU, most current education first, and then everything else that falls underneath it. You do not have to include your high school information. If you transferred in from another school, unless you got a certificate or another degree, you do not have to include the other school on your resume. Work experience, again, any experience, whether it's volunteer, job, leadership, whatever it may be, athletics, all of those things can come under the experience section. Then these last three, the honors, activities, certifications, license, and skills, those can be in any combination, and it will depend on your experience and what you've done. So maybe you do a lot of community service, but you don't have any certificates, or maybe you don't have any honors, and that's okay. You just need to pick and choose whatever is a best representation of what you've done over time. Okay, any questions on that? Okay. So the next few slides are just some examples of the different components and what you can use. So again, you can do, Brutus Buckeye with your email and your current address and your home address, or you can just do your name, address, email, and phone number. And there are probably 20 other ways at least that you can set this up, but those are the most important things that need to be on there. I need to also, just FYI, it's probably best to use your OSU email. You could, if you have like a Gmail account and it's professional, like your name, that's good. But if it's anything other than that, it can end up in employers' junk mail. I get a lot of emails from students from their personal emails, like OSU frat boy, Ice Princess, are some of my top favorites. Don't use those when you're applying for a job, because that'll probably go in their junk. And then they'll be like, what is this, who is this person? So for that, also, if you put your cell phone number on that, make sure you have a nice voice message. If you have a ring-back tone or whatever, make sure it's not something crazy. Just remember you're being a professional, so make sure those things are professional also. So here are some examples of objective statements. They're pretty concise. It's about the position that you want to apply for. They can be very general, or they can be very specific. For example, the third one down, that's very specific. Seeking a position as an assistant defensive coach at Otterbein University. Very specific. And that's awesome if you want to do that. But you have to remember that one only can go to Otterbein. If you sent that to another college, they would be upset, and it would end up in the trash, and that whole position would go away for you. So you just have to be very careful. But again, it can be general, like the first one, It's somewhat specific in that this is the kind of position I want or this kind of internship, but it's still pretty general. And that's okay too. So it depends, again, how you want to handle the objective statement. Any questions on the objectives? Okay. So again, here are a couple different examples of your education. Again, remember it is The Ohio State University. Bachelor of Science in Education is the official name of your degree, and then your major. If you have minors, you can put those on there. On the bottom one, you can see that. You can include related coursework. So maybe you want to do marketing or something more business related with sport. You might want to highlight, if you don't have any experience, you might want to highlight some of those business courses that you've taken. So you can include those under this section. You can include your GPA. Sort of the rule of thumb is a 3.0 or higher, include it. If it's lower than that, don't put it on. Some employers care about your GPA, some don't. A 2.99 is not a 3.0, don't round up. Okay? You need to be honest about where your GPA is. Okay? So if you're uncomfortable with it, don't put it on, or if you're proud of it, put it on. Okay? It's up to you, it's your resume. Any questions about the education section? Okay, cool. So here are some experience examples. I like, and this is my preference, I like the headings to be specific or personalized to your experience. So the first section here is sport-related experience. So this person worked at the Fan as a communications intern, but also as a basketball camp counselor. So again, you can group all your sport things together instead of just listing them in reverse chronological order, every job you've ever had. Because here, if you group all your sport things and you're applying for a sport job, it looks like a lot more experience. And it's up at the top, and they'll see it first before if they have to scan all the way to the bottom, you don't know if they'll see it or not. So it's important to put that information at the top. And then any other experience, you can call it experience, you can say relevant experience, related experience, or you could name it whatever it is. So I like that because when they're scanning in those 5 seconds, if your headings catch their attention, then they will read more. If you just call it experience, is that going to be enough to make them read your resume more? So those are some things to think about. The other thing that I want to highlight are the action verb phrases. So each bullet is an action verb phrase describing your experience, your skill set, and your accomplishments. That's what they're looking for, and the more detail you can give an employer, the more they know about you or your experience. So again, it's sort of the best way to write an action verb phrase is your verb and object, but what most people don't include is what was the outcome or the result of you completing that task or that job. And that sets you a little bit above or higher than everybody else because it gives a little more detail what you accomplished. So as you look through these, some will have that sort of outcome or result, some won't, because maybe there's just really not. But you have to think about it, and you have to be descriptive. So if we go to the basketball camp, so planned, organized, and facilitated daily basketball activities for children ages 7 to 15. Okay, so there's an age range in there. People like to, if you go into ticket sales, they might want to know if you increase sales by 5% or whatever it may be. Think about different ways you can quantify your experiences. Any questions on those action verbs or the experience section? Okay, cool. So this last section, again, I had told you before, there are a lot of different ways to put the rest of your experiences together on a page. So the first example, honors activities. This person has honors and activities to highlight. You can group them in any combination because it depends on your experience. So this person had 2 volunteer activities and 1 honor. If you had put the honor all by itself, it would have looked kind of sad and lonely, like you didn't do very much. But if you group things together, then now you have 3 bullets. It looks like a lot more. Okay. So another one, again, you could do if you have a lot of computer skills, you can definitely, list all of those. You could bullet them or just list them. And another way to highlight different skills, this would be another opportunity, is you group them and give examples because you're sort of making a case that I really do have those skills. So, for example, if you have foreign language skills, computer skills, leadership skills, and you can give examples. If you have a lot of leadership, maybe you're the president of your fraternity or sorority, you do some mentoring programs, maybe you're a coach. All of those things are leadership experience. And you could, if I go back, you could have another section called leadership experience and treat it like a job with your action verb phrases. And that is awesome. Employers are not just looking for jobs, they are also looking for experiences where you have gained leadership. That's a huge key for what a lot of recruiters are looking for. Any questions on this? Okay. So here's some things to remember about resumes. Remember to use those action verb phrases and action words. And here's my little, formula. Action verb plus object plus outcome or results. Always remember to match the need. What is that employer really looking for? So you would have to tailor that resume to highlight those skills that they're looking for and use those words that they are using, those keywords they're using either on their job description or maybe off their website, things that are important to them. Because then you will get noticed if you use those. And it's okay to have white space on your resume. It doesn't have to all be jam-packed in there. The white space also gives some variety to help the eye travel down the page so that they see everything on your resume. Okay. Do you have any questions about resumes? Yes?
So as your resume starts to get longer than a page, how do you differentiate between what to start getting rid of?
Okay, that's a good question. Well, first I would say if you have high school information, that would take care of that part. The other part is you would have to decide what you think is the better indication of your work or your accomplishments and use those. Sometimes it's just a formatting thing. It's kind of like when you're writing a paper for a class and they say it has to be this long, and you have too much or too little, and you play with the margins and the font size and do all of those things to make it fit. You do the same thing with your resume. So maybe you have your resume, everything's 12 font size, and you go from 12 for the headings and then make everything else 10, and that will a lot of times make it fit on one page. Sometimes you just have so much experience that you need 2 pages. And that's okay, but just know when they're looking at your resume, you have to put the most important thing that's on that first page because they might not get to the second one. But if you have specific questions and if you want to make an appointment, we can do that too. Any other questions about resumes, formatting, what you should or shouldn't put on? Are we good? Okay, great.